Hey, welcome in. Today we're going to be doing a full market breakdown for you guys. And we're going to take a look at a ton of altcoins, get a full lineup of where the market might be trending, Bitcoin, ETH, all that good stuff. It's going to be a fun one.
Yep.
My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back in the Tech Path. Joining me, of course, is Evan.
Yep.
Altcoin, bull or bear? We'll probably get that in the comments, I'm sure, Evan.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin dominance, you gotta be objective. That's been rallying. So.
Man, right? That's been crazy.
Yeah.
Moving up. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor. That is Kraken. If you are looking at moving into, maybe you've got a bunch parked over on the side, maybe you're thinking about making a move, whether it's on an altcoin or maybe over on Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can get into Kraken. Of course, they've got industry-leading security, deep liquidity and volume, of course, proof of reserves, 24/7 customer service. This might be an exchange for you. Make sure and use our link down below because it does help the channel out. We appreciate it. All right, so we're going to get into our first few things here. I want to hit on a couple of tweets that are in the market. And one, of course, is talking a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of the data coming in. All right, so you got PPI coming in at 4.6. 5.4 was the expected number, so softer. This is a big miss. This is could result in inflation coming down. Powell possibly might make a pivot. We'll talk a little about the 25 and very likely, or no hikes with these banking issues. And that's kind of where I'm leaning, is the flat position,
Right.
mainly because of the banking crisis, which, by the way, we're going to be doing a big show today at 3 o'clock. Make sure and hit your alarm for that notifications, because the 3 o'clock live, I think, is going to be a big one. Do you think Powell's going to give us a 25 or
It's so
go flat?
tough to say, Paul. I mean, even the odds are like kind of 50-50 right now. I kind of feel like, based on what he said the last time, he wants to do, one more time of at least 25 at 25 this time.
Don't
Definitely,
you think things have changed, though?
It's hard to say. It wouldn't surprise me either way. But
Flat
I know
or 25?
If it's 25, he wants to send a message.
Okay.
And then,
Well, I'm in the camp. I mean, Goldman came in, even though I don't want to be in that camp, but Goldman came in and said they thought this would be a flat number. You had Larry Fink pushing hard on what the slow roll, possibly contagion could be
Right.
underway. So a lot of that does play into it. Here was Charlie Bilello, talking about the 2-year Treasury yield now under 4%. A week ago it was above 5. Okay, This is the largest 5-day decline that they've seen since October 1987. All right, so to me, I look at that and the market is calling the Fed's bluff on further tightening after next week. This goes back into my theory of a flat number. I think the market is saying, listen, the banking situation, inflation is starting to soften. What's wrong with pausing right here?
Right.
I mean, you could still take your 25 on the next meeting.
yeah.
I mean, if you said, okay, we got new data, and if the conditions for the banking scenarios play out a little bit lighter, maybe that would be good. I don't know.
I do think if, price is the markets are already kind of factoring in flat. So if we do get 25, that's going to be rough. But say it's flat, I'm not expecting a big jump up just because it's flat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Credit Suisse starting to take it on the nose with their stock. Their stock plunged. The slump triggered a big issue by regulators too. The other thing that happened with this is, with Credit Suisse, is they kind of went back to the well a little bit. One of their biggest investors, I think 10% of the shares being held by a Saudi bank. And the Saudi bank CEO basically stepped away and said, no, I think we're good. And when you have your biggest, because typically on a VC, if you're a VC venture capital funder of a company, a startup, and they're saying, hey, listen, we need a little extra money, a VC is going to step up to the plate because they're like, hey, we're in this long term. We got to keep this guy alive.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a chance here. That's my concern with the Sauds kind of coming off.
It's not good. Not good by any means.
All of that pushing into the market, you have still crazy people thinking that we're going to get to 100K. And this analyst eyes textbook perfect Bitcoin price move. I love these TA analysts that push us out into 20. Now, granted,
A lot of clickbait.
his chart was, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, bump and run reversal. Bottom is a bullish reversal pattern that begins with a series of descending peaks. Listen, I trust the sentiment, boys. Price action then reverses direction, the upside. And here was his chart. I mean, this is a really advanced chart, Evan. I like that. Down and up.
The bump and run, it always works. Nothing's ever gone. Once you get the bump and run, you're
Bump and run. That's like a football term, right? Yeah, that's
think it
a
could be,
wide
yeah.
receiver. That's wide receiver,
Yeah,
bump
yeah.
and run. Cornerbacks play that position. All right, guys, let's get into Bitcoin today. Evan, where do you think, and what do you think after this nice little crazy rally we saw with Bitcoin?
Yeah, so there's a few things, the really important things that we want to look at in the charts here. So there's these two moving averages right here. This one over here is the 200. We're below the 200 now. I think really the most important thing to get up to, the 30K, the 29K, pick your poison, whatever around 30K number that you predict, we need to be able to hold this and close a weekly candle above this. If we could close this weekly candle above, not looking too good right now since we're $1,000 below it, but I mean, a lot of volatility, who knows, 25.3 about. If we could close a weekly above this in 4 days, we're good. Another important area is, here's the death cross. This was the 50 weekly moving average. I think it's really important that we close above this. It's at about 23.3, 23.4 right now. If we can close the weekly above this, this would be pretty good. However, if we come down in that amount of time before this weekly closes and the 4 days below this, that would be not a good sign. And what would kind of just explain this jump up is just a giant short squeeze. There were a ton of liquidations at the high 25s, low 26s. Next thing I want to show you quickly here on the daily is we do have our blue triangle, trend reversal. These don't always get the top, but sometimes they do. If you look here, this was a pretty good drop down. This is a pretty good drop down. If it plays out like either of those two, you could be in for kind of a rough ride. Your VWAP's also coming down in the daily. Money flow is coming out here. I would be a little bit more optimistic if we could come into the green, back into the green in the daily.
Yeah.
But if we stay here and this VWAP comes down, you're getting a red dot while the money flow is coming out. That's a pretty bearish sign. And I mean, hate to say it, but we could just come right back down below 20K in the next month if it does happen.
All right, so you feel the indicators right now are still pointing into the bearish zone.
A little bit more on the bearish, yeah.
Question will be, is you have a new fundamental that's playing into the market that we did not have on the last corrections to the 25.
Right.
And that is the whole regional and traditional banking sector that could get exposed here. And this is something we talk about in our research team a lot. And that is when you look at the amount of new potential addresses coming into Bitcoin.
Right.
A lot of what we've seen so far, if you look at on-chain metrics, you look at Masari, you look at chain analytics of all sorts, it's pretty much a very incestuous scenario right now. It's people moving out of stablecoins,
Right.
moving off of USDC early. That's some of the moves I made, and/or people that were maybe bringing in new dollars to replace USDC that they liquidated into Bitcoin or early as well. That all of that could be playing into the volume that we went and saw above 26. That's great. But if we do see a banking scenario play out, what are your thoughts? Do you think we continue? Maybe for the first time, we think maybe we see some Main Street go, maybe we need a little 5% in?
That's the big kind of debate here is like, does Bitcoin act like gold and silver during this recession? Or does it act more like the NASDAQ in 01 during that recession where it just continues lower? That's the big debate here. I kind of feel like we need a little bit more regulation to come in before we're finally there. You know what I mean? Where Bitcoin could act like gold and silver. Could be wrong here. What you kind of are explaining this rally is it's Bitcoin dominance is going up. People kind of people are flopping and groping a little bit. They don't know where to kind of put their money. So
yes.
And also kind of those mob and pop people. I'm not saying they don't have any money, but once the recession hits, they're going to get hit hard. Do they even have the money to put into Bitcoin a lot of times?
Well,
that could be the issue there.
Yes. Okay. So we get a chance to talk with a lot of high net worth individuals right now, and the biggest issue they're concerned with, these are business owners and individuals that own businesses who have large net worths. And one thing that they've talked to me about quite a bit in the last few days is this issue of bank stability. And many of them are trying to look at alternatives, even with a small percentage that they would have never, I can't say never, they were starting to get crypto curious, but now they're extremely crypto curious as to what is my alternative here if I had a bank go down above the 250K. Because we're not going to see another, I won't call it a bailout, we're not going to see another fix like what we saw with Silicon Valley Bank. First of all, the funds aren't there now. So that's what I don't really like about that fix was, why did that bank get, I understand why, because it would have melted down Silicon Valley, but Why did that bank get the ability to basically make all depositors whole?
Yeah.
When in most cases like this, a bank typically is going to be 250, 250, 250 on every ABA. So
yeah, that's it's weird, and I think the Fed just doesn't know what they're doing. It's indicative of just
this is the worst Fed ever.
Ignorance.
These guys are absolutely idiotic. All right, so let's talk a little bit about ETH, Binance, Shanghai, Ethereum Shanghai, one step closer. Hard fork is now being tested on the Gurley testnet. When you look at this, and of course the scenario we've been reporting on ETH, this will be a staged rollout, so likelihood is now we won't see those massive liquidations on ETH as that were kind of anticipated, but I don't think that was really ever going to be the case. What do you think this does to Ethereum long term?
So the main thing on Ethereum right now, I want to show you first, before I look at the ETH chart, let's look at ETH versus Bitcoin. And you're getting another blood diamond on the 3-day that confirms, and 1 day here. My main trajectory for ETH is, this is kind of worst case scenario here, but I think we could continue to bleed against Bitcoin, primarily just because of regulatory FUD and things of that nature. I think you could bleed at least 20% against Bitcoin in the next 6 to 10 months, worst case scenario. Maybe 40 to 50% down here, assuming ETH goes down to like lower lows, 700, 600. I think that's still in the cards. What we also want to look at, let's just go to our regular ETH chart, is kind of the same thing that's happening. What we talked about on Bitcoin, you're getting up to some key levels here. This is the big fib level, 1741 right there.
Bingo.
Can you come up higher to this area? This is a pretty fierce rejection off of it. We're already $100 down below. And if you look at the daily here, the same thing as Bitcoin. Money flow crossing into the red while the VWAP is starting to curve down. Your RSIs are also starting to curve down too. So that's usually a pretty strong sign that's indicative that we would just come back down. This is kind of the last chance for this to be just a big bull trap. If you come up higher to, higher numbers, like I said, I think even a penny above whatever the high was the other day, even a penny above 26.8 or whatever, then you're going to 28K.
On Bitcoin.
Yeah, and then for both Ethereum and Bitcoin, the bottom has been in.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the sentiment today a little bit later at the 3 o'clock to give you guys a run on, because there's some very interesting things happening with ETH sentiment right now that we'll reveal on the 3 o'clock show. So make sure, and as I said, smash the like button. And if you're not subscribed already, make sure and subscribe to the show. That's the number one way that, you're going to get notifications. If you click that little bell, you'll get a notification of our lives when we're going out, like on this show here. And our 3 o'clock typically is our cycle here on the network. I want to jump over to IMX. IMX tokenomics, absolute junk. But maybe there's something going on. Maybe this is why we're seeing a little bit of pump. The biggest token utility upgrade in history. Not that that's a big history, but at least they're saying history, and they've got four major scenarios playing out, all happening about the same time. 5 hours, this one comes up in 35 days, 63 days, but these two right on each other's heels. What do you think about this? If you look at IMX as a whole, and not a lot of people, I think, are big investors, but some of our DGen crowd does like this token. So what do you think is going to happen with IMX right now?
So we're hitting some major resistance that kind of the same place we hit over back in the mid-February, about a month ago. Made a slightly higher high here. I mean, you do have on the 2-day a little trigger wave. That's kind of good, but I mean, given that Bitcoin dominance keeps going up, Bitcoin, keeps outperforming the majority of these altcoins, I think that ultimately, if you look at the daily money flow coming out, we're a bit overheated. I'm kind of thinking you'd reject from this area. And what looks really bearish here is look at this money flow curvature on the 12-hour with the VWAP coming down. I don't think you could come higher, but I mean, potentially if you break above, 135, 136 here, you could make it up to 170. That would be the next kind of big area. There's not much in between. Well, really 150 would be a psychological area, and you got a little bit of traffic there. But,
it wicked to like 125 yesterday.
Yeah.
So, that was the good move. Of course, if you saw the last 3 days, that's been the positive side of it for IMX. But it is also corrected down 7, almost 8% now for the day, 6.9% down for the day.
Yeah.
So it hasn't wiped out its gains totally there, but let me look at that. What was the gains from you guys that jumped on that? Oh, 45%. Nice. Okay, somebody made some money on IMX. So maybe this is a time for an exit and taking a step away and saying, okay, I'll take my 20% and run. And what's wrong with that?
So. Yeah,
take some profits.
That's my opinion.
Take some profits, guys. Remember, it is not against the tax regulation to take profits, even though they like to tax you on those profits. All right, let's get to another tweet right here. Some product news across the company. We're looking closely at what we prioritize to increase our focus. We're winding down digital collectibles. This coming, of course, from the Meta lead. This really surprised me, and because of that, it has a little bit of an effect on Arweave. And I will say with Arweave, even though I'm a big believer in Arweave, just I think, storage, the need for Web3 services is going to continue to grow. I'm a little bit disappointed with Meta's scenario unless Zuckerberg has another play up his sleeve, which could be the case. I always look at that because sometimes, when you look at what's happening with Amazon, eBay, maybe Meta is going, wait a minute, we need to not be a Johnny-come-lately. We need something that's really innovative. But with Arweave stepping out of that role, because they were going to be the storage facility for the Instagram NFTs, no longer. In fact, even if you guys remember, they used to have that big pinned tweet right there. It used to be this guy right here. This was the one they put back in, when was that? Yeah, December, right there. This was the one, the partnership, and they just kind of slightly pushed it away. How big of an impact does this have on Arweave as an investment?
Yeah, I think it's not good, and it just kind of shows. I mean, we'll see, like you were saying, we'll see if Zuckerberg does anything, but right now in the charts, I mean, we did have the pump based on that tweet. We just looked at it a second ago. I mean, he came up a lot, but it seems like a lot of that's over. If you zoom in on the weekly here, the first thing you can look is there's a trigger wave on market cipher B, typically very bearish. Also, if you look at kind of last time, look at this red X we had in market cipher A. Let's kind of, the last time we had that, I mean, it doesn't always play out this way, but this was a pretty big drop down. Let's map that out. That's a target around $4. So I could see a potential $4 into middle to later this year to give this another look there and then see.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one. As I said, I'm still a big proponent of where Arweave is going strategically, but I think, and again, it will all depend on how much of a cycle we get in Web3 growth, because obviously that will impact Arweave just in terms of adoption, but also in terms of the token price as well. Polygon says they're committed as ever to empowering the creator community. Now, this was a very interesting statement because what Meta stated was that they wanted to make it better for creators. And Polygon kind of comes in and almost a little bit of a thirsty tweet here, I thought, just in the sense of, hey, listen, since you're not going that route, maybe we should help you with your creator community and go that route. So Polygon Labs says user-owned digital identity and Polygon domains, teaming up with Unstoppable. Everybody knows that. I think this is a little bit of a regen of it. Maybe Polygon not having something in the pipeline in terms of PR.
Right.
Which means we're probably going to continue to see Polygon move downward.
I think there's some downside, yeah. I mean, if you look at the 2-week here on Market Cipher, you have money flow that's been overheated for a while here on this chart. It's starting to come down here. Also, if you look at the weekly, your RSIs split have been coming down. It's worked out so far pretty well. I mean, you did have a little jump up with everything else the other day, but it seems like that would generally kind of complete that trajectory downward. I mean, there's a lot of different trajectories you could look at, maybe something like of this nature. I don't think you're going to repeat like that bad of a trajectory downward. I mean, you could potentially do it, but I'm kind of thinking double bottom is the most likely scenario, 40, 50 cents here. So, yeah.
40, 50, okay, because right now trading at $1.09, this was a nice 7% move down here to where it's currently trading if you were catching it on that bottom. Obviously, the slide on Polygon, as you guys know, we exited out of that play quite a bit earlier and put most of those proceeds into ETH, which is, kind of was the strategy for us. But I'm looking for an opportunity for Polygon. I just haven't set up a new entry point yet of where that might be. So I'm going to be looking and watching very closely as Polygon gets going.
Take a nap first. Take a few months off, then take a look.
Gala Games. We haven't reported on this one in a while. Everybody's been asking us a little bit about this token. Well, they continue to do a few things. They're launching Last Expedition. This is March 20th. Would be a good time for make friends, yada, yada. They've got a lot of cool stuff. And, Gala's pretty good about a good strategic PR engine of letting projects, one, get a launch, get a breath, get a little bit of market notoriety. But if you look at the token, how do you play this one out? Because Gala has been kind of all over the charts over the last 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, when you zoom out here, obviously, there's not too much. It's not really what you want to see, straight trajectory downward, then all of a sudden, nice pump. In January, you have the red X continuation on the weekly on Market Cipher A and Market Cipher B of the trigger wave, like a few other things have. So my trajectory here is maybe repeat something kind of this nature, maybe not as severe, though. This would bring us down a lot here. I mean, this is like where you're talking about zero, but I think it's going to probably make a lower low into middle to late this year. If you look at some of the other time frames here, I mean, we did see a little bit of a bounce. There are some people buying this up. I mean, money flow curvature is good here, but I don't see this being like the lone crypto that just keeps the lone, altcoin that just keeps coming up. I think ultimately what we're seeing here, RSI is curving back down to the 16-hour.
Yeah.
Red dot, RSI is curving down to the 8-hour. I think this is pretty much done with this rally.
Well, I mean, and if you look at this, let's just go over to my chart for a second. I wanted to show the gain that was available if you were to catch the top. That was a nice 37% move. But if you look right here, even if you sold it right now, you would be at 17%. So maybe that's another exit right there waiting on 17% in profit. And then let it retest, and see where it goes from there. Maybe you re-enter Gala further into it from that point, which I think is a good strategy. At least that might be one of the ways I'd go about it. Mm-hmm. All right, so Conflux has been an intriguing token. This being the Chinese integrated communication platform token. They're launching this blockchain SIM card. This is going to change things because what this would do, let me play a video on this. Let me just, while I'm talking about this, what this would do is the SIM card would now be the wallet. So it eliminates the need for a ledger. It eliminates the need. Now your phone, which is something we've talked about here on the show often, is that one day our phone is going to be the true wallet.
Yeah.
With a SIM card tying into, this is a Chinese telecom group that are potentially flowing into this. I still think China is up to something with this. With Conflux, the tie-in of the digital yuan. You also look at the strategic plays that they're doing within Hong Kong in the banking system. Now you look at the number one thing that the Chinese use is mobile. And this starts rolling out. Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And Conflux was flying.
I mean, it's not as secure, just the hardware wallet and the SIM card. What if someone steals your phone? It's not as secure as having a hardware wallet, locked up in your house.
Well, remember, it's still seed phrase oriented. So even if you just get a new phone, put your seed phrase in, you spin up a new wallet. So remember, wallet is really, this is the other thing. I don't think these things should be called wallets.
Yeah.
Because it's not really where your assets are on chain.
Yeah.
And the seed phrase is really just your keys.
It's your security.
It's just your keys. Yeah. And the wallet the device is really just your key holder. It's your key ring. Not your wallet, your key ring.
Yeah.
That should be the way they do it. But anyway, Conflux, what do you think about this one? Do you like this one?
Conflux, so CFX, that's it's hitting a double top right here. Daily looks overheated, VWAP coming down with that. I don't know too much about the fundamentals on it, but what I can say is it's tough when it's a newer one like this. What I can say is most likely it should come down at least to around 17 cents from this double top pattern, looking overheated too. And if you zoom out a little bit, money flow generally coming out in a lot of these lower time frames. We're already seeing the rejection here in the 5 hours. So I ultimately think there's some downside, at least in the short term.
Well, to me, this was an easy trade. Even right now, you'd be at an 83% run on this recent run here. It's another opportunity. And if you look at the historical, they haven't had these kinds of moves outside of this one right here, which occurred back here on February 14th, Valentine's Day. And you had this nice move, which was a 526% move, in a matter of a week. Now you've got this little move for those who said, wait a minute, something's up over there. What in the world happened? And if from right there, if you did grab it at the top, there was another 100% on that move. So maybe Conflux becomes the new render. And if you guys know, our strategy on render is wait for it to drop, wait for it to correct, then
Right.
come back in, pick some up, and maybe this is one of those. Take your profits at 80%. You poor 80% profit people. These people out there making 80% on something. This is just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right.
That's indicative of a real bubble pop kind of pattern. You come up, you make a crazy high, you come
Yep.
down a bit, then you make another same high, and then usually it's done.
Yeah,
Usually.
yeah, for sure. This is their announcement. Congratulations on the exciting partnership between the Ghost Gang and Zhao Our Space. This essentially is kind of the Instagram of China. So again, more integration, which could lead well for what's happening around digital assets and back to their whole thing around digital collectibles here on their video that plays into this. I don't know. This is a problem because the issue with wallets, key rings.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling them key rings. With the addition with key rings, you can't hold all of your pictures on your key ring.
Right.
You end up with a key ring that doesn't have a screen. There's a lot of problems here.
Right.
So the mobile aspect of this is really going to be interesting. Now, I'm always intrigued by what Ledger is doing with stacks because I think that'll be an interesting one. Niftify is coming out, or is it Niftify? What's the other name of that wallet? The one I'm trying to remember.
Oh, Nifty Gateway or
there's another
Lure
wallet
came
out there.
right?
Which one is it? Is it? No, it's Chris loves it. Is it Nifty? Yeah. Okay.
Nifty.
That one that has another screen on it. But the point is
okay.
that now your mobile device kind of runs the gambit on all of those. So I don't know. This will be interesting to keep a track of. All right, Tensor coming in right now saying first multi-sig NFT listing on Solana. This might have some interesting play there with Solana, permissionless. 30,000 traders coming in on this. So I don't know. Solana plays out a little different. What are your thoughts on, let's go into Solana, and if you look at that, we probably should have had James on talking about this, but that would be a good one. Anyway, Solana, what do you like on Solana?
Well, right here, not too much on the charts, but in the fundamental news isn't too bad. You got the red X on the weekly. This one's even probably a little bit worse, the same red X we're looking at. So if it's like that trajectory, you're coming back to a potential double bottom pattern around $9 in the next few months into summer. You have a trigger wave right there on the weekly. And if you zoom out a little bit, look at the 11-day red dot, the second one right here, that was indicative of a big drop down. I don't think you would drop down that quickly like you did here, but I still think there's ultimately more pain ahead for a lot of these altcoins. Nothing really looks too good. RSI is coming down right here. The trajectory, even for the short term, for a lot of these altcoins, including Solana here, downwards. So, yeah, I'm not seeing anything too good right here.
So do you feel that it could get to, you don't think it could get to its $8 again, do you?
I do,
You
yeah.
do, okay.
I think it could go to $5 potentially, kind of like worst case.
On its worst case?
Yeah, $3
All right,
to $5.
so
yeah.
all of that, do you not feel that altcoins will at some point, if you're a betting person and you're just saying, okay, we're going to see another bank failure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just assume we were 80% going to see another bank failure. And who knows what Credit Suisse will do to the American market because of the tentacles.
Right.
That being the play, and possibly seeing people moving into digital assets or Bitcoin or ETH, okay, or gold, okay.
Yeah.
Do altcoins favor against Bitcoin at that time when you have liquidity pouring in?
I think Bitcoin's favored well above altcoins, kind of what we've seen so far. And if you look
just
at
like this last run.
Yeah, look at Bitcoin dominance right here. I've never seen a chart more bullish in my life. I mean, we've been looking at this for a while. Double bottom pattern, bullish div right here on, already coming up to here. My trajectory, we can come up to 55% for Bitcoin dominance. I think it's going to end up somewhere in between 50 to 60% by probably quarter one or quarter two, 2024.
Do you think that this move isn't just the fact that we're seeing that dominant? I mean, look at that. The last 3 days, we've seen the unrealistic moves that we were coming in from, which was really right there at 42%. That's a big move.
Yeah.
All the way up to 45 in a very short period of time, because typically you don't see that unless you're in these kind of runs, which is what we saw down here when we were running back here. This is, of course, January 23, all the way into that high, which we had in the 25 zones. But the last time we haven't been in this zone before, Evan. This is a very interesting an intriguing situation. Does this run all the way? Look at that dominance level.
I think
right
it's
there.
going to be like this until at least high 40s, to at least 48 to 50%.
Well, that was June 20. Yeah, June 22, right there, last year.
Yeah, I think that's going to be at least run until there.
Then you go further back in, and then now you're getting into bull run. Now you're talking bull run cycles, right?
The thing too is like we have a market correction. That dominance price still will come up. That's going to keep coming up, and alts will continue to really bleed against Bitcoin. And I think we'll see that for at least the next 6 months.
Interesting. Because that's going to be the factor, is knowing when that trigger will pull. You would pull that trigger for altcoins to be able to catch those at
6
the
to
right
12 months
period of time.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, very cool stuff. All right, I know we're going to get into a poll today, and then I think we have some questions. Do we have some questions?
Yeah, we got
Yeah, all right, so let's get into the poll real quick. Let's take a look. Banking crisis getting worse soon, and pump altcoins?
Why would it pump altcoins if we already
I think
seen
this
it
pumps
happen?
Bitcoin.
Yeah, we pump Bitcoin.
And maybe their theory is that, okay, now people really think the shit's hitting the fan.
Okay.
And I want to diversify even further. And I've got my Bitcoin, but now I want to buy ETH and or maybe Polygon or
maybe
something.
Okay. If you mean pump altcoins with Bitcoin, a
yeah,
little bit,
of course,
but Bitcoin still outperforms them. Okay.
Well, Bitcoin still is going to move.
That poll I was interpreting that poll as altcoins will outperform Bitcoin.
Oh no, I don't think that wasn't the poll, was it? Pull it back up.
I interpreted it wrong.
I think it was just would it soon pump? Yeah. Well, I think if Bitcoin goes, altcoins. Now the question would be, can altcoins run with it in tandem? Because typically we've seen good runs on altcoins when Bitcoin has these accelerated moves. Mm-hmm. Instead, this time that wasn't necessarily the case. Outside of things like the odd ones like Conflux,
which is indicative of accumulation phases and bear markets, like we saw in 2019. We were bottomed out in 2019, but Bitcoin still outperformed the vast majority of altcoins for the majority of that year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, so let's get to some questions
for
everyone.
Let's see. Somebody said, did I say possibly 40 to 50 cents a Polygon drops? Yes.
50 cents. We could see 50.
Let's see. Oh, we got a super chat from David Smith. What do we think about Casper? You would know more about Casper.
Casper Network, yeah. We haven't talked about it much on the show. Again, the amount of research that our team does, it has been in our crypto pit in terms of discussions. But again, being able to bring in, before we bring something on the show, we really want to dive into not necessarily tokenomics, but the fundamentals behind what projects are doing. So nothing yet.
Let's see. Somebody says, I'd love to see another dip back under 20K. Gareth said 18.2K as a major point of resistance and buy point. We'll see. What do you think, Paul?
I'm still feeling that 20K might be a new resistance zone psychologically. The scenario that changes all of this is the banking condition. Because if without the banking condition, I would agree with Gareth that 18.2 might be the run. Because if we see banking conditions, you have to think about it from a sense of the Bitcoiners, the altcoiners, the degens have money in banks.
Yeah.
They're the natural evolution into saying, okay, instead of 80% of my money in cash,
right,
I'm going to try to go ahead. And they're probably already in the mode of transferring assets into tradable positions, maybe into Tether, setting with cash on exchanges, I don't like that. But doing that, if that were the case, then could 20K ever get breached again if we continue to see these bank scenarios? I think that's the wild card, the bank issue.
Yeah, I think that it goes back to that 23, the 50-week moving average. If we lose that 23.4, that brings the likelihood of 18K much higher.
If we lose the 23.4. So there you guys got it. So pin your donkey on 23.4.
That's a big area.
And then get ready for a potential re-entry on Bitcoin and Ethereum, because that would drop ETH down probably around 12 to 1,000.
Yeah.
Into that zone.
1,000, yeah.
What else do we have?
Let's see. Somebody asked, how do you feel about moving some cash into short duration or T-bills? T-bills.
Well, I mean, you saw, we just showed some T-bill numbers. I mean, we've seen a little bit of adjustment there. Treasuries are still, I mean, that's kind of the scenario that a lot of smart traders are going. But I think if you're not a trader like that, there's a lot of banks that are offering 3 to 4+% now with just regular. I mean, like M1 Finance is doing 3 and almost 4%. You've got Robinhood doing 4+%. So it
Yeah.
depends on where your risk levels are and how you want to approach the market from a T-bill, treasury bill standpoint. Do you want to go that way, or do you want to keep it in, super liquid assets so you could move quickly in case
I
of
like
a
to be able to move
huge
quickly. Yeah.
opportunity? I mean, imagine if we get a massive move on the S&P, would you not jump in?
Yeah.
On just an absolute crash?
Well, probably not, honestly.
Really? See,
not
I'm
right
just,
now,
I'm
but
just,
based on my strategy.
I'm such a degen.
Yeah, because I don't think it's going to be like '08 or COVID. I think you're going to crash. You're going to stay sideways
Stair-stepping down.
for a while. But
All right.
I'd be looking more to get into Bitcoin. Not the
Well,
S&P.
for sure, yeah, for sure. That's
Yeah.
definitely the case. But for the ability to have some semblance of diversification.
Long-term, long-term thing. So let's see. Somebody asks, is anything not bearish with Evan? Bitcoin dominance is not bearish at all. Let's see. Banks are about to implode. Bitcoin will fall. What? Let's see. Altcoin price. Let's see.
I don't think he said. See, that's what he's saying. Carlos is saying this. If banks are bad, Bitcoin good.
Yeah, banks are bad, Bitcoin
gold good.
Yeah.
Other alternatives are going to start to see.
Right.
As
100%,
as I keep saying, is that
Yeah.
if the bank situation, the contagion. If you listen to BlackRock and Fink, this guy usually has tomorrow's newspaper in his back pocket. I feel like he's pretty much put the gauntlet down saying, listen, this is a slow roll. We're going to hit more. And if we do hit more, the problem is that remember, 2008, we did not have social media. In 2008, had we had social media, we would have accelerated what took 2 years to readjust.
Yeah.
Will take now 3 to 5 months because of just social media in general. Just because people, this will blow up in seconds. A bank will be, the minute that somebody can't get money out of a bank, you can bet that's going to be on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter like crazy, which will just
then there's going to be
amplify.
people,
Then you get the bank runs.
Exaggerate, and some banks will be okay.
That's what happened to SVB.
It's going to get ugly.
Yeah, that's what happened to SVB. So I would agree. Peter Schiff's more optimistic on Bitcoin than Evan.
I don't think he is. He's the most. I am pretty optimistic.
Well, he said something in a tweet yesterday. We featured it. It says Peter Schiff actually said Bitcoin and gold would benefit in the same tweet. I don't think that's ever been done. We might want to make an NFT.
That's more bearish news, Paul. Remember the tweet where when Bitcoin was at 60K and Peter Schiff said it could go to 100K? And then what happened?
All right, well, we're getting into no man's land. Now we're talking Kramer territory.
Yeah, when Peter Schiff starts getting bullish on Bitcoin, that's the issue.
There's rumor, Evan, that they're getting a reverse Evan ETF going.
Well, I called 22K. I didn't think we'd go this high, and then we'll see. I mean, I've been short from 24.8, 24.6, so we'll see.
How's that 19K? But they're just brutal in the comments.
We'll see.
Anyway, all right, guys, stick around for the 3 o'clock today. We're going to be jumping into banks and talk a little bit about that. If you're not in the Diamond Circle, get in there now. It's the best place to catch additional alpha. We have a podcast over there that's only for Diamond Circle members and pro. Plus, if you're a CPI member, you get the Substack, so you get all that good stuff. There's a lot of stuff happening over there. Just visit our website. You'll understand how to get all involved. And of course, if you want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechBath.